I think one of the biggest mistakes, maybe the biggest through line of all for the way Bidens have been covered, is the Bidens, it is regularly said, are a good family. They're decent people. And I'm not here to tell you they're worse than the Trumps or worse than Nixon, but I'm here to tell you that the mythology that the Bidens are good people who don't lie is not borne out by the facts, and that's increasingly front and center in sharp relief this week. We know that they didn't tell the truth about Biden Inc. We know that. We know the president in the debate in 2020 against Donald Trump did not tell the truth when asked about Hunter's business. I'm not here to sit in moral judgment of them. I'm not here again to tell you that Joe Biden is a bigger liar by some metrics than Donald Trump. What I am here to tell you, again, is this has been a horrible mistake on the part of the media to treat the Bidens like they walk on water. 4 strands right now put in sharp relief this issue. First, the release last Friday of the audio tape of Joe Biden's conversations with Special Counsel Hur regarding the issue of whether he improperly took classified material out of the White House. That audio was blocked from release by the Biden White House. They made up reasons why they blocked it, but the reason that they blocked it was because it would have been politically devastating had it been released when he was still trying to run for president. The second strand is all these questions about his mental acuity tied to the new book out today by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, related to the degree to which Joe Biden declined and the degree to which people around Joe Biden covered it up. Now, I've said before, I don't think the book actually delivers on the question of who covered up what. They hint at it, but I don't think they fully deliver on it. But there's no doubt that they are saying belatedly, in the case of Jake Tapper, less belatedly in the case of Alex Thompson, what was obvious to all, and I'll talk about that. Then we've got the diagnosis announced conveniently by the Bidens. Feel horrible for the president and his family to go through another case of cancer after they lost Beau to cancer. But the question of the timing, which even Biden loyalists have said to me, doesn't make sense. To say that the president was suddenly diagnosed on Friday and announced halfway through the release from the time that her tapes were released until the release of the book. So we'll talk about that. The last strand is how Democrats and the media are grappling with their role in trying to stop Donald Trump from getting elected president by covering up and refusing to report honestly on Joe Biden's decline. So we're going to talk about all that. I'll talk about that with Joe, but I want to set the table by talking again about some of my experiences and how I have thought about Joe Biden's mental decline over the course of covering him. I've known him for a long time. Our father, he was good friends with my father, colleagues with my father. I covered his presidential campaign in 2008. Spent a lot of time around him when he was a senator, and then some time around him when he was vice president, and had a pretty good relationship with his son Beau. Spent some time with him. The Bidens are big liars. You know, you can deny it. You can say, "Oh, they're such good people," but the press has assumed for years that the Bidens were somehow different. That Joe Biden was a good man, in the words of George W. Bush. And again, you just look at the way they covered up Biden Inc., the way the way they dealt with the cover up of his mental decline. I'm not saying they're worse than others, but I'm saying the press has made a mistake in covering them like they're the same. I've talked here and elsewhere before about how I saw Joe Biden at a book event in 2017 on the island of Nantucket, where he spoke to several hundred people with a friendly interviewer. And he was exactly the way he was later in his presidency, glassy-eyed, trailing off thoughts, losing the train of thought of the conversation, speaking kind of too long and off topic. And I said after that event, again, I've told you this before, thank goodness he's out of public life. Thank goodness he'll never have to run for anything again. And yet, of course, he did. He ran for president twice after that. In 2021, after he got elected president, early in his administration, he gave a press conference. And during the press conference, I had an email exchange with a prominent Democrat, someone who'd served in senior positions in the Democratic Party, about what was going on in the press conference. And the other person initiated the email exchange, and he said, "Isn't it great to have a president who's so on top of it, who can speak so fluidly after Donald Trump?" And there's no doubt, if you watch the whole press conference in 21 in the spring, there's no doubt that Joe Biden looks much more with it than he would look just a few years later in the presidency. But I want to show you a portion of this press conference. This is 102. Watch Joe Biden reading.
And And if we leave, we're going to do so in a safe and orderly way. We're in consultation, I said, with our allies and partners and how to proceed. And Secretary Blinken is meeting in Brussels this week with our NATO allies, particularly those who have forces there. And General Austin is just met with Kayani, and I'm waiting for the briefing on that. He is the leader, quote, in Afghanistan and Kabul. And there's a UN-led process that's beginning shortly on how to mechanically get people, how to end this war. But it is not my intention to stay there for a long time.
Now, presidents use notes, presidents use teleprompter, but unlike the person I was emailing with who was so favorably disposed towards Biden's performance, I was struck by the fact that he was reading a script on a topic that he had worked on for decades. And so I'm going to read to you the parts of the email that I wrote to this person in our exchange back and forth, because it gives you into a window of how I saw Joe Biden and his presidency and his mental acuity in March of 2021. I'm reading my own email here. His mental decline is pronounced, troubling, and in danger of accelerating in a hurry. It is a tough situation for his family and the country, but his widespread attempt to deny that it exists freaks some of us out. When he has naps and long overnight sleep and notes, he can make or fake his way through meetings and interviews, which is great. It means that he is often performing well enough to be president. But in his worst moments, they're scary and cautionary. Can they have him rest his way through the ability to do the job for 4 years? Based on my anecdotal experience, they cannot. When someday someone reveals the extraordinary stage managing of his daily life and public schedule that Jill has done for 3 years, you will send me an email and express your amazement that 1, I knew, 2, no one leaked this, 3, no one reported it, 4, they let Joe run. Until then, let's hope for the best for America. Now, I live in New York City, and I'm a reporter, and I've been a reporter for a long time. I have plenty of sources, but I'm not the only reporter who could have and should have seen this and had it inform the way they covered the Joe Biden presidency and Joe Biden. I said things like this publicly. I don't think I only was putting in a private email, but it's extraordinary how far from that point of view, based on reporting, not hostility to Joe Biden, not rumors, how far that reporting, how far other people's reporting on Joe Biden was from that point of view, that informed point of view about what was happening. And what I lay out in the email is exactly what happened and is now being belatedly reported by others. Huge failure on the part of the media. And the tragedy of it is most reporters who covered the White House for places like the Washington Post and the New York Times knew almost everything I had in that email. Maybe not in 2021, but sitting in the White House, they saw it every day. And yet through some combination of being intimidated by the Biden aides who threatened people who said things like that in public, and a desire to help Donald Trump lose the election to make sure Biden won, they didn't say these things. It did not inform their coverage. Okay? It did inform the coverage of people in conservative media who were mocked and derided as being part of some machine to destroy Joe Biden. I'm going to give you one example. Greg Kelly, who's a friend of mine, anchor at Newsmax. Greg reported this early on, regularly. And if you go back and watch the totality of Greg's coverage, was he occasionally a little bit over the top? Did he occasionally overstate the degree of Joe Biden's mental decline? Without a doubt. But look at some of what Greg reported over a long period of time here. This is number 108.
We have all been watching this, and anybody could see that Joe's in decline. There's no denying that Joe has serious issues. Right now, the people are actually noticing Joe Biden's lack of competence. Take a look at this poll. This is from The People. And CBS News, actually. Biden's actions as president viewed as incompetent, 51%. Take a look at this headline. It goes a little bit further in description. CBS poll, majority of Americans no longer believe Biden is competent. You know who else should quit now? The ultimate him. He's not going to be the Democrat nominee, I can tell you that. I know for sure the Democrat nominee will not be Joe.
Greg's my friend. A lot of people mocked Greg for that coverage, and he's not the only one in conservative media who did it. It shouldn't have taken conservative media. It shouldn't have been confined to conservative media to say the kind of things Greg was saying, both from someone who's an analyst or a commentator, but also from the press. Now, we all know that there was this turning point when the debate happened, and people said it's shocking. They were shocked by what happened in the debate. I do not understand that point of view. I do not understand how anyone who has C-SPAN could be shocked. Let me give you some examples of why the debate should not have been a revelation. Show you some stuff from the debate, and then I'm going to show you some stuff from earlier in the debate. So here's 106A. This is Joe Biden in the debate, and I'm focusing here on the things that people commented on that shocked them. Look at Joe Biden glassy-eyed while he listens.
Put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen.
Okay, horrible to see. If you're listening on the audio, Joe Biden glassy-eyed. You've all seen it. Here's Joe Biden in 2023.
This is Morgan Sherwin. This is Morgan Sherwin and Sam Cerruti.
Again, if you're listening to the audio only on the podcast version of this program, you're seeing Joe Biden look glassy-eyed. Same thing. Same troubling look. Don't know what's causing it, but it's troubling to see that in the President of the United States. Okay, trailing off. That's another thing people saw in the debate and were troubled by, claimed to be surprised by. Here's from the debate, 106C, Joe Biden trailing off.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look.
Okay, troubling, yes. Surprising, no. Could show you 1,000 examples. Here's Joe Biden trailing off before the debate into 2023.
The conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top. I think that
Okay, last one. Saying the wrong thing, using the wrong word. Here's Joe Biden, troubling, saying the wrong word in the debate. 106E, please.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Okay. Here's Joe Biden in a pre-debate saying the wrong thing. 106F.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Okay, again, we all say the wrong things. Those are the three. I looked at a lot of the debate coverage after the debate, looked back at my notes of what Democrats said troubled them. Glassy-eyed, trailing off, saying the wrong word. It all happened. It was all on display before the debate. I don't understand how anybody could say the debate surprised them.